The moment you almost gave up, something changed. You cannot see it with your eyes yet, but your spirit has already stepped into a new season. Listen carefully, because this is not an ordinary moment. You have cried behind closed doors where no one could hear you. You smiled in front of people who never knew your heart was breaking. You carried burdens that nobody offered to help you lift. You watched people you trusted turn their backs on you. You endured words that cut deeper than any wound. You questioned why honesty seemed to cost you friendships, why kindness attracted betrayal, and why your loyalty was answered with abandonment. Yet through every silent night, every unanswered question, and every painful goodbye, God was watching. Not for a single second did He lose sight of your tears. Not for a single moment did your pain disappear from His attention. What you believed was the end of your strength became the beginning of His unseen work. And today, before you even understand everything that has happened, there is a message echoing through your spirit. Congratulations. Finally, you did it. You may be wondering, what did I do? I don't feel victorious. I still carry scars. I still remember every betrayal. I still feel the weight of disappointment. That is exactly why this moment is so powerful. Your greatest achievement was never becoming famous, wealthy, or admired by crowds. Your greatest victory was that you refused to let your pain turn your heart into stone. You refused to become the very thing that wounded you. When people lied about you, you did not surrender your integrity. When they excluded you, you did not stop believing that your life still carried purpose. When they underestimated you, you continued walking even with trembling knees. Every step felt impossible, yet you kept moving. Every morning demanded strength you did not think you possessed, yet somehow you stood again. That strength did not come from human approval. It came from God quietly sustaining you when nobody else noticed. There were nights when your prayers felt like they disappeared into silence. You asked God questions that no one else ever heard. Why me? Why this pain? Why this delay? Why do the people who hurt others seem to succeed while I struggle to breathe? Those questions did not offend God. He heard every word, every sigh, every tear that never reached another person's eyes. While you believed nothing was changing, He was doing something deeper than changing your circumstances. He was transforming your endurance. He was teaching your soul to survive storms that would have destroyed the person you used to be. The pain that tried to convince you that your story was over became the very fire that purified your character. Your enemies thought pressure would break you. They never imagined pressure would reveal the strength that God had already placed inside you. Think about how many times you wanted to quit. Not because you were weak, but because you were exhausted. There is a difference. You carried responsibilities while hiding your own wounds. You encouraged others while silently fighting your own battles. You remained faithful when nobody applauded your faithfulness. You stayed honest when dishonesty appeared easier. You chose patience while everything around you tempted you toward bitterness. Those choices seemed invisible to everyone else, but they were never invisible to God. Heaven measures victories differently than the world does. The world celebrates applause. God sees perseverance. The world rewards appearance. God honors faithfulness. The world notices those who arrive first. God remembers those who refuse to stop walking, even when every step felt heavier than the last. There is something you must understand before you take another step forward. Because if you miss this truth, you may accidentally mourn the very season that was sent to transform you. The people who walked away did not interrupt God's purpose for your life. They revealed who was never meant to remain in it. That realization hurts because you invested your trust, your time, your prayers, and your loyalty into relationships you believed would last. You imagined they would celebrate your victories, protect your reputation, and stand beside you when life became difficult. Instead, some of them became the very source of your deepest wounds. They misunderstood your intentions. They questioned your motives. They repeated stories about you without ever asking if they were true. They judged chapters of your life they never took time to understand. Every word they spoke felt like another stone added to the weight already resting on your heart. But listen carefully, God did not allow those painful moments because He stopped caring about you. He allowed them because hidden attachments can quietly become invisible chains. Sometimes the only way to free you for what is ahead is to remove what has been holding you back, even when your emotions beg to hold on. You kept asking God to change people while God was changing your vision. You wanted Him to make everyone understand you, but He was teaching you that your purpose cannot depend on human approval. Imagine what would happen if your confidence rose and fell every time someone praised or criticized you. You would spend your entire life imprisoned by opinions that change with the wind. God refused to build your future on such unstable ground. Instead, He invited you into a deeper place where your identity no longer depends on applause, recognition, or acceptance. That process felt lonely because every false source of security had to be exposed before genuine confidence could grow. It is painful when the people whose approval once meant everything suddenly become silent. It is painful when invitations stop coming, messages go unanswered, and doors close without explanation. Yet in those quiet moments, another voice becomes clearer than it has ever been before. The voice of God begins to rise above the noise of rejection, reminding you that your worth has never been decided by people who could not see what He placed within you. Do you remember the version of yourself that constantly worried about being enough? The person who replayed conversations all night, wondering what could have been said differently? The person who apologized even when there was nothing to apologize for, simply to keep the peace? That person carried a burden God never asked them to carry. You were exhausting yourself trying to earn acceptance from people who had already decided not to understand you. But look at what has happened through every difficult season. Slowly, almost without noticing, your dependence on their opinions began to fade. You discovered that surviving rejection did not destroy you. Being misunderstood did not erase your purpose. Being abandoned did not cancel God's promises. In fact, every painful experience became another reminder that your future was never secured by human hands. It has always rested safely in the hands of God. Now something remarkable is happening inside you. The same situations that once would have shattered your confidence are no longer controlling your peace. The criticism still exists, but it no longer owns your heart. The memories still visit you, but they no longer define your identity. The wounds have not vanished, yet they have stopped deciding your direction. That is growth. That is evidence that God has been working beneath the surface in ways you could not measure. While you were waiting for circumstances to change, He was changing the person who would walk through those circumstances. That transformation is worth more than immediate comfort, because comfort can disappear overnight, but a heart strengthened by God can endure storms that once seemed impossible to survive. So when you hear the words, "Congratulations, finally you did it," do not think only about reaching a destination. Think about becoming someone different. You have crossed from depending on people to depending on God. You have moved from chasing validation to embracing purpose. You have stopped allowing betrayal to write the final chapter of your story. The people who underestimated you may never admit they were wrong. Those who spread false accusations may never apologize. Some relationships may never be restored. But your peace does not require their permission anymore. God has already begun writing a future that is greater than the pain behind you. Every tear you thought was wasted has watered unseen ground. Every lonely night has strengthened roots that no storm can uproot. And the person standing before tomorrow is no longer the frightened soul who once believed rejection was the end. You are becoming living proof that when God carries someone through the darkest valleys, they emerge with a strength that no human betrayal can ever take away. There is another reason heaven is saying, congratulations. And it is one that many people never recognize until years later. You did not simply survive the battle. You refused to let the battle rewrite your character. That may sound small to the world, but before God, it is extraordinary. Anyone can be kind when life is easy. Anyone can smile when every door is opening. Anyone can speak about faith when the road is smooth and every prayer seems to receive an immediate answer. But who are you when disappointment becomes your daily companion? Who are you when the people you defended become the ones attacking you? Who are you when your name is questioned, your motives are doubted, and your silence is mistaken for weakness? That is where your true foundation is revealed. The world expected you to become bitter. Some even waited for the day you would finally explode in anger, abandon your principles, and prove the accusations right. Yet, God gave you the strength to keep choosing what was right, even when doing so brought no immediate reward. Every time you resisted the temptation to become consumed by hatred, another invisible victory was recorded. Every time you chose peace over revenge, truth over manipulation, patience over panic, you were building a life that could withstand what destroys so many others. Never underestimate the power of the battles nobody applauded. There were moments when your greatest victory happened inside your own mind. No crowd saw it. No friends celebrated it. No one knew that you spent hours fighting fear, refusing to surrender to hopelessness, pushing back against the whispers that told you your future had already been stolen. Those private battles were real. There were mornings when simply getting out of bed required courage that most people could never understand. There were evenings when tears became your only language because you no longer had the strength to explain your pain to anyone. Yet even in those moments, when you felt completely unseen, God was shaping something within you that could never be produced through comfort alone. Gold is not purified in cool water. It is refined by fire. Strength is not created through ease. It is forged through resistance. And your spirit has been refined in ways that have prepared you for responsibilities you cannot yet imagine. Perhaps you have been asking God why the journey took so long. Why did the answers not come sooner? Why did the waiting seem endless while others appear to move ahead effortlessly? But what if the delay was not punishment? What if it was protection? What if God knew that the blessing you were asking for would have become a burden if it had arrived before your heart was ready to carry it? Some victories require more than opportunity. They require maturity. Without wisdom, success can become pride. Without patience, influence can become destruction. Without humility, Achievement can become an idol that slowly replaces dependence on God. That is why your preparation could not be rushed. God was not only preparing your future, He was preparing you for your future. The waiting that frustrated you was quietly producing the character that will sustain what is coming. Looking back one day, you will realize that what felt like an unbearable delay was actually one of God's greatest acts of mercy. Think about every closed door that once broke your heart. At the time, you believed those opportunities were essential. You pleaded with God to open them. You could not understand why they remained shut despite your prayers. But today, you can already see that some of those closed doors would have led you into places where your peace would have been sacrificed, your purpose would have been diluted, and your spirit would have been exhausted. God saw what you could not see. He knew the conversations you would never hear, the intentions hidden behind smiling faces, and the dangers disguised as opportunities. His refusal was never rejection. It was direction. Every no carried the protection of a father who sees beyond the limits of human understanding. Every unexpected detour moved you one step further away from what could have harmed you, and one step closer to what has been prepared specifically for your life. There is a moment that arrives in every life when God quietly asks a question that no one else can hear. Will you still trust me when nothing around you makes sense? That question is never answered with words. It is answered by the way you continue walking when the path disappears beneath your feet. It is answered by the way you continue praying after months of silence. It is answered by the way you continue choosing integrity when dishonesty seems to bring quicker rewards. You have already answered that question. Not perfectly, not without tears, not without moments of weakness, but you answered it by refusing to abandon God. Even when your emotions begged you to stop believing, there were days when your faith was not loud, it was not dramatic, it did not look powerful. Sometimes your faith was simply waking up and saying, God, I don't understand this day, but I will take one more step. Sometimes your faith was a whisper instead of a shout. Sometimes it was a single sentence spoken through trembling lips. Yet God does not measure faith by volume. He measures it by endurance. He saw the days when your heart felt empty, yet you still looked toward Him. He saw the nights when your mind was filled with questions, yet you refused to let those questions become the final authority over your life. That quiet perseverance has become one of the greatest victories of your entire journey. Many people believed your silence meant you had been defeated. They mistook your patience for weakness because they only understand people who fight loudly. They never realized that some of the strongest battles are fought without making a sound. While they were watching your outward circumstances, God was strengthening your inward foundation. You were learning to stand without constant encouragement. You were learning to keep your peace while being misunderstood. You were learning to survive seasons where nobody called to ask how you were doing, where nobody celebrated your effort, where nobody defended your name. Those lonely seasons felt unfair, but they produced something that constant comfort never could. They taught you that your confidence cannot be borrowed from other people. It must grow from your relationship with God. That lesson is priceless, because once your confidence is rooted in Him, it cannot be stolen by criticism, delayed by rejection, or destroyed by betrayal. Remember how often you questioned your own value because of the way people treated you? Human beings have a dangerous habit of measuring themselves through the reactions of others. If they are praised, they feel worthy. If they are rejected, they feel forgotten. If they are accepted, they feel secure. But if they are abandoned, they begin believing there must be something wrong with them. That is one of the greatest deceptions a wounded heart can believe. The actions of other people do not define the value that God has already placed within you. Someone else's inability to recognize your worth does not reduce it. Someone else's betrayal does not erase your purpose. Someone else's jealousy cannot cancel what God has already determined for your future. For too long, you carried the burden of asking, "What is wrong with me?" when the better question was, "What is God preparing me for?" The difference between those two questions changes everything. One traps you in shame. The other fills you with expectation. One keeps your eyes fixed on the past. The other turns your heart toward the future that God is unfolding one step at a time. Look carefully at the person you have become through all of this. Months ago, perhaps even years ago, you would have reacted differently. You would have allowed every criticism to steal your sleep. Every rejection would have convinced you that you were failing. Every delay would have filled your mind with panic. But now there is a quiet strength inside you that did not exist before. It is not because life suddenly became easy. It is because God has been changing the way you see yourself and the way you see every battle. You are no longer asking, "Why is this happening to me?" As often as you ask, "God, what are you teaching me through this?" That shift is more powerful than you realize. It means your circumstances no longer control your perspective. Your trust in God has become stronger than your fear of uncertainty. The storm may still be around you, but it no longer rules the atmosphere within you. That is a miracle that cannot be purchased, imitated, or manufactured by human effort. It is the result of countless unseen moments where God quietly strengthened your spirit while no one else even noticed. There were also moments when you almost believed the accusations spoken against you. When enough voices repeat the same lie, it becomes tempting to question your own identity. You wondered whether you truly were the problem. You replayed conversations in your mind, searching for answers that never came. You carried guilt for things you never did and apologized for wounds you never caused. The enemy of your peace wanted you to spend the rest of your life defending yourself against every false story. But God has been teaching you a different way. Not every accusation deserves your response. Not every misunderstanding requires your explanation. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is allowing God to become your defender instead of exhausting yourself trying to convince people who have already decided what they want to believe. Human opinions rise and fall like waves, but God's knowledge of your heart never changes. He knows every hidden sacrifice you made. He knows every act of kindness nobody thanked you for. He knows every time you chose honesty when deception would have been easier. He knows the battles you fought without telling anyone because you did not want your pain to become someone else's burden. Nothing has escaped his attention. Perhaps that is why these words carry so much weight today. Congratulations, finally you did it. You reached the place where your peace is becoming more valuable than proving yourself. You reached the place where your relationship with God matters more than the approval of people who never truly understood your journey. You reach the place where your identity is no longer built upon applause, popularity, or recognition, but upon the unshakable truth that God has never abandoned you. That is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a completely different way of living. From this day forward, you can walk without constantly looking over your shoulder. You can move without dragging yesterday's disappointments into tomorrow's opportunities. You can dream again without fear that past failures will decide your future. You can trust again, not because people have suddenly become perfect, but because God has proven himself faithful through every season you survived. The scars remain, but they no longer speak louder than his promises. The memories still exist, but they no longer imprison your heart. You are walking into a season where the victories ahead will not erase the pain behind you. They will reveal that none of that pain was wasted. Every tear, every lonely night, every betrayal, every closed door, every unanswered question became part of the foundation God was building beneath your feet. And now that foundation is strong enough to carry the life he has been preparing for you all along. There is one final obstacle that God wants to remove from your heart before you step into what he has prepared. And it is more dangerous than betrayal, rejection, or delay. It is the quiet fear that whispers, "What if it all happens again?" That fear does not shout. It hides beneath caution. It disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you to stop expecting anything good because disappointment hurts too much. It tells you not to trust, not to dream, not to hope too deeply. Because if you expect less, you will suffer less. But that is not protection. It is a prison. The greatest victory of your enemies would not have been taking away your opportunities. Their greatest victory would have been convincing you that your future deserves less than your past. God did not carry you through impossible seasons so you could spend the rest of your life hiding from possibilities. He did not rescue your spirit only for fear to become your new master. Every battle you survived was preparing you to move forward with wisdom, not with suspicion. There is a difference. Wisdom learns from pain. Fear becomes controlled by it. Wisdom walks carefully while still moving forward. Fear refuses to move at all. God is calling you into wisdom because the life waiting for you cannot be entered by someone who keeps staring at doors that already closed. Think about the countless moments when you believed you had reached your limit. You said to yourself, "I cannot carry one more burden." Then another challenge appeared, and somehow God gave you enough strength for that day as well. You thought the heartbreak would destroy you, yet you are still here. You thought the false accusations would permanently stain your name, yet your integrity remains intact. You thought loneliness would consume your spirit, yet it became the place where your relationship with God grew deeper than it had ever been before. Every prediction your fear made about your future has been proven wrong. Fear told you that you would never recover. You recovered. Fear told you that your joy would never return. Yet here you are beginning to smile again. Fear insisted that what you lost could never be replaced. But God has never depended on one person, one opportunity, or one season to accomplish his purpose. When one path closed, he quietly began preparing another. When one dream collapsed, he was already shaping something greater than you could imagine. That is the pattern of his faithfulness. Human beings see endings. God sees beginnings hidden inside those endings. You have probably wondered why God did not immediately remove every obstacle from your path. Why allow the waiting? Why permit the misunderstandings? Why let you experience seasons where it felt as though nobody recognized your efforts? Because there are lessons that success can never teach. Comfort has never produced the depth that hardship creates. Ease has never revealed the strength that resistance uncovers. During those lonely months, when you felt forgotten by everyone around you, God was separating your identity from your circumstances. He was teaching you that your value does not rise when life becomes easier, and it does not fall when life becomes harder. Your worth has always rested in His knowledge of who you are. That truth becomes unshakable only after it has been tested. A tree with shallow roots may look beautiful on a calm day, but only a storm reveals whether it can remain standing. The storms in your life were not evidence that God had left you. They were evidence that He was growing roots deep enough to support everything He intends to place upon your life. Now, look at yourself honestly. You are stronger than you were, but not because you forced yourself to be. You are stronger because God patiently rebuilt the places inside you that pain had broken. He restored your ability to hope without pretending your wounds never existed. He restored your courage without erasing your memories. He restored your peace without changing your past. That is the miracle many people fail to recognize. God does not always begin by changing the world around you. Often He begins by changing the world within you. Once your heart is no longer ruled by fear, bitterness, or despair, everything around you begins to look different. The same road that once seemed impossible suddenly becomes a road filled with purpose. The same delay that once frustrated you becomes evidence that God was protecting you from rushing ahead before the appointed time. The same tears that once felt meaningless become reminders that every painful season was producing a strength that comfort could never have created. So do not lower your expectations because of yesterday's disappointments. Do not shrink your prayers because previous answers took longer than you hoped. Do not silence your faith simply because people laughed when you believed God would make a way. They saw your struggle, but they never saw what God was building in secret. They watched the waiting, but they could not see the preparation. They noticed your silence, but they missed the conversations between your heart and God. One day they may see the outcome, but only you and God know the price that was paid to reach this moment. That is why these words carry such extraordinary meaning. Congratulations, finally you did it. You crossed the invisible line between surviving and becoming. You are no longer simply someone who endured hardship. You are someone whose spirit has been refined by it. You have learned that God's timing is wiser than human urgency, that His plans are stronger than human opinions, and that His faithfulness remains constant even when every visible circumstance suggests otherwise. Walk forward with your head lifted, not because every problem has disappeared, but because you now know something that your pain could never steal. If God has carried you this far through every betrayal, every disappointment, every lonely night, and every impossible season, then nothing standing ahead of you is greater than the one who has been leading you all along. There is a reason your spirit feels different today, even if your circumstances have not completely changed. Deep inside you, something has shifted that no human being can reverse. The change that once held your mind captive are losing their grip. The voices that constantly reminded you of your failures are becoming quieter. The memories that once controlled every decision no longer have the same authority over your heart. This is what happens when God begins restoring a person from the inside out. The world expects restoration to arrive with dramatic announcements and immediate changes that everyone can see. But God often begins where nobody is looking. He starts with your heart. He starts with your thoughts. He starts with your perspective. Before He changes your surroundings, He changes the way you stand within them. That is why today you can face situations that would have crushed you a year ago and still find yourself standing. It is not because you suddenly became fearless. It is because God has become greater in your eyes than the fears that once ruled your life. And when that happens, everything begins to change. The mountain may still be standing before you, but it no longer looks bigger than the one who has been carrying you every step of the way. Do not make the mistake of comparing your journey with the journeys of others. Comparison has stolen the joy of countless people who forgot that God writes every story differently. You looked at people who seemed to rise quickly while you remained in hidden places. You watched others receive recognition while your efforts went unnoticed. You wondered why your path contained so many unexpected detours while someone else appeared to move in a straight line. But what you could not see was the unseen work taking place beneath the surface of your own life. God was building depth before visibility. He was establishing character before influence. He was teaching endurance before elevation. Many people celebrate what is visible without understanding the invisible cost behind it. They admire the fruit but ignore the years spent growing roots. They applaud the victory but never witness the lonely battles fought before dawn. Your hidden seasons were not empty seasons. They were sacred seasons. Every prayer spoken in secret, every tear shed in silence, every act of obedience that nobody applauded became another stone in the foundation God was carefully laying beneath your future. Nothing was wasted. Not a single disappointment, not a single delay, not a single moment when you wondered whether anyone even noticed your faithfulness. God noticed it all. Perhaps the greatest miracle is not that you survived what happened to you. The greatest miracle is that your heart still has the capacity to believe that tomorrow can be better than yesterday. Think about how extraordinary that is. After betrayal, you still choose integrity. After rejection, you still choose kindness. After being misunderstood, you still choose truth. After disappointment, you still choose hope. Those choices are not signs of weakness. They are evidence that bitterness has not conquered your soul. Many people lose opportunities because they lose themselves long before the opportunity arrives. They become so consumed by resentment that they can no longer recognize the blessing standing in front of them. But God has been protecting your heart from becoming permanently trapped in yesterday's pain. Every time you decided to release what you could not control, every time you entrusted your wounds to Him instead of feeding your anger, another piece of your freedom was restored. You may not have realized it at the time, but every act of surrender was preparing you for a future that requires a heart free from the weight of old chains. There will come a day when someone asks you how you managed to keep going. They will expect you to describe extraordinary strength, remarkable discipline, or some secret strategy that helped you endure. But deep down, you will know the truth. You kept going because God refused to let you fall apart. There were moments when your own strength had completely disappeared. There were mornings when your confidence was gone. There were nights when your prayers consisted of nothing more than tears because words could no longer express the depth of your pain. Yet somehow, every sunrise brought just enough grace for another day. Not enough to understand everything, not enough to see the entire road ahead, but enough to take one more faithful step. Looking back, you will realize that your life has been filled with quiet miracles that nobody else recognized. Doors that closed before they could harm you. Delays that protected you from rushing into the wrong place. unexpected conversations that restored your hope at exactly the right moment. Strength that appeared when you had none left to give. These were not coincidences. They were the fingerprints of God, guiding you through valleys you never thought you would escape. So lift your eyes beyond your present circumstances. Refuse to let temporary struggles convince you that your future has been reduced. God is not limited by the opinions of people who misunderstood you, by the opportunities you lost, or by the mistakes you still regret. He has never needed perfect circumstances to accomplish His purpose. He works in deserts as powerfully as He works in places of abundance. He brings hope into hearts that believed hope had died. He restores confidence to those who thought they would never believe in themselves again. And now, after every lonely night, every painful lesson, every hidden battle, every moment when you questioned whether you could continue, you are standing at the edge of a new chapter. Do not enter it carrying the weight of old fears. Enter it with the quiet confidence of someone who has discovered that God's faithfulness is stronger than betrayal. His wisdom is greater than confusion. His timing is better than your own, and His purpose cannot be canceled by any human decision. That is why heaven declares over your life today with authority that no circumstance can silence. Congratulations. Finally, you did it. You did not merely reach another day. You became the person God was shaping through every storm. And because He has brought you this far, you can walk into what lies ahead with unwavering confidence, knowing that the same God who sustained you in secret will continue leading you into every promise He has prepared for your life. You may be standing in a season of exhaustion. You may have smiled your way through battles that broke you inside. You may have walked through storms while pretending everything was fine. But deep down, you know you are tired. Tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of believing, tired of being strong when your strength has long been spent. And yet, my friend, I want you to hear this truth today. God knows. God knows you are tired. He sees the weight you carry. He feels the cry that never reaches your lips. And He understands the ache that no one else can comprehend. God knows how hard you've tried. He knows the tears you've hidden behind your prayers, the nights you've spent questioning His timing, and the mornings when you wanted to give up, but still got up, because something inside you whispered, "Don't stop now." That whisper wasn't your own strength. It was the voice of God sustaining you when you thought you had nothing left. Because when you belong to God, your breaking point becomes His starting point. You may think that the silence means God has forgotten you, but the silence is often where God does His deepest work. You may not see anything changing, but beneath the surface, He is moving mountains you cannot see. The waiting is not a punishment, it's a preparation. God doesn't delay to deny you. He delays to develop you. Every prayer you have whispered has been heard, every sigh recorded, every act of endurance noted. God knows when your soul trembles, and He knows how to restore it. There are moments in life when prayer feels like shouting into an empty room. You plead, you beg, you pour out your soul, and yet the heavens seem quiet. But hear me, when God seems silent, He is not absent. His silence is not rejection, it is protection. You are being shaped in the silence. You are being strengthened in the waiting. You are being prepared for the promise. The strength you are developing now is the foundation for the blessings you will carry later. Do not despise the slow season, because it is in the slow season that God builds unshakable faith. Anyone can trust God when life is good, but it takes divine courage to trust Him when everything is falling apart. This is the kind of faith that moves mountains. The faith that believes even when it doesn't see. God is not looking for those who only trust Him in victory. He is raising those who trust Him in silence, in confusion, in delay, in darkness. God knows you are weary. He knows the battles that don't show. But God also knows how to renew strength. When your body is weak, He renews your spirit. When your heart is faint, He infuses your soul with endurance that cannot be explained by human means. There is a supernatural strength that comes only when you pray instead of panic, when you trust instead of complain, when you wait instead of run ahead. Waiting is not wasting. Waiting is the womb of greatness. Every seed must remain hidden before it grows. You are not being buried. You are being planted. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared for a harvest that will silence every doubt. God is never in a hurry, but He is never late. He is working in divine timing, and that timing is always perfect. When you look around and see others advancing, others receiving, others celebrating, and you remain in the waiting, do not compare. God's plan for you is not delayed, it is being perfected. Comparison breeds discouragement, but trust breeds peace. God is not finished with you. He is writing a story that will reveal His glory through your endurance. Sometimes God lets you walk through the fire not to burn you, but to prove that you cannot be consumed. Sometimes He lets you reach the edge of your strength to show that His strength is limitless. Sometimes He allows your plans to crumble so that His plan can stand unshaken. Trust what He removes as much as you trust what He gives. The things that leave your life are often the things that could have destroyed you had they stayed. When your heart says, I can't take any more, God says, you don't have to, I will carry you. When your mind says, it's over, God whispers, this is only the middle. When your faith feels small, God reminds you that He can work with a whisper, a breath, a tear, a sigh. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to remain open. God does not need perfection from you. He needs surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving it over. It means you stop trying to control the outcome and start trusting the process. When you surrender, you stop asking, why? And start saying, I trust you. You stop fighting the storm and start learning how to rest in it. Because when you trust God, peace becomes your weapon. Waiting becomes your worship. Prayer becomes your power. Unconsciously, God knows how long you've been fighting that unseen battle. The weariness you feel is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you've been faithful. The fact that you are still standing, still praying, still believing after everything you faced means you are stronger than you realize. And God is not blind to your perseverance. He is storing every tear, counting every effort, and preparing a reward that will overflow. Sometimes God waits to act not because He hasn't heard you, but because He wants to show you what He can do when human strength runs out, when your back is against the wall and every door is closed, that is when God reveals doors you didn't know existed. When the situation looks hopeless, that is when He demonstrates that hope doesn't come from circumstances. It comes from Him. Your tiredness is not the end of the story. It is the turning point. The moment you feel you cannot take another step is often the moment God steps in. When your faith is hanging by a thread, His mercy holds the thread. God is closer to you in your exhaustion than He was in your excitement. He draws near to the brokenhearted, and He gives rest to those who wait upon Him. Maybe you prayed and nothing happened. Maybe you believed and still lost something precious. Maybe you waited and nothing came. But listen, just because you haven't seen it, yet doesn't mean it isn't coming. The waiting period is not God's way of saying no. It's His way of saying not yet. He's aligning pieces you can't see, orchestrating people and places you haven't met, and positioning you for a breakthrough that will make sense of every delay. Trusting God doesn't mean understanding everything. It means believing even when it makes no sense. Faith is not knowing the details. It's knowing that God holds the details. And sometimes what you call delay, God calls direction. What you call rejection, God calls redirection. What you call loss, God calls preparation for something greater. Don't let your weariness steal your worship. When you are tired, pray. When you are confused, wait. When you are discouraged, trust. Because the very act of trusting in your tiredness is a declaration of faith that moves mountains. It says, God, even when I don't feel you, I know you're here. Even when I don't see the way, I know you've made one. There is power in persistence. There is strength in surrender. There is glory in waiting. God is teaching you patience not to punish you, but to perfect you. If everything came easily, your faith would remain shallow. But in the struggle, your roots grow deep. In the waiting, your trust becomes unbreakable. In the silence, you learn that His presence is not limited to answered prayer. It's in every breath, every step, every tear. Maybe your season feels endless. You've been praying for years, hoping for change, watching others receive while you remain in the shadows. But know this, God hides those He intends to elevate. Before the light shines on you, He works in the dark to strengthen your character, to purify your motives, and to prepare your heart. When your time comes, no one can stop what He has prepared. When you trust God in your tiredness, you are demonstrating faith that heaven celebrates. The angels see your endurance. The universe takes note of your surrender. Every time you pray, despite your pain, you are declaring that your hope is greater than your hardship. You are saying, I may be tired, but I am not done. I may be weary, but I still believe. God sees you exactly where you are. He knows the nights you've cried yourself to sleep, the mornings you've faced the world with a forced smile, the prayers that came out as whispers. He has not abandoned you. He has been beside you in every step, collecting every tear, whispering courage into your soul. Even when you felt nothing, He was holding you. Sometimes God removes what drains you to remind you that joy doesn't depend on people or outcomes, but on Him alone. He allows certain doors to close because He's protecting your peace. He lets some relationships fade because He's making room for new strength. You think He's taking from you, but He's actually pruning you for fruitfulness. Every no from God is wrapped in love. You may be tired, but you are not forgotten. You may be weak, but you are not worthless. God has a purpose for your pain, a reason for your waiting, and a reward for your faith. The same God who held you through the storm will raise you after it. The same God who saw you cry will make you smile again. The same God who watched you struggle will lift you into strength. Pray even when it's hard to believe. Pray even when you have no words left. Prayer is not just asking, it's breathing with God. It's the moment your weakness meets His power, your confusion meets His wisdom, and your exhaustion meets His peace. You don't need perfect words, you need an honest heart. God understands sighs better than speeches. When you wait, do it with expectation. Waiting is not sitting still. It's standing in faith. It's saying, I don't see it yet, but I know it's coming. It's trusting that what God has prepared will find its way to you. Waiting with faith transforms despair into strength. Because when you wait on God, you are not wasting time. You are aligning with divine timing. Trust is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's choosing to rest even when you don't see results. It's saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my emotions. Your emotions may scream that nothing is changing, but your faith knows that everything is being arranged. Trust opens the door for peace to enter where panic once ruled. Every person who has walked in divine purpose has walked through seasons of tiredness. Every soul that has seen God's promise fulfilled has also endured seasons of silence. You are not alone in your struggle. Even the strongest have felt weak. But those who refused to quit, those who kept praying, those who waited with faith, they saw what others could not. They touched the reward of endurance. God knows you are tired, but He also knows you are closer than you think. You've come too far to turn back now. The pain you've endured is not wasted. It's the price of transformation. The strength you've built in this waiting season will sustain you in the next one. What feels like delay is actually divine acceleration happening beneath the surface. Rest does not mean quitting. Rest means trusting. It means allowing God to carry what you cannot. The world tells you to hustle harder. God tells you to rest deeper. Because true strength is not found in constant movement. It's found in quiet confidence. When you rest in God, you are declaring that you believe His plan more than your pressure. The fire doesn't destroy gold. It refines it. It burns away the impurities that were never meant to remain, and what comes out shines brighter than ever before. The same is true for your soul. The heat of your trial is not to harm you. It is to reveal the strength and beauty that God placed within you from the beginning. You are being refined, not rejected. Every test, every delay, every disappointment is molding you into the person capable of carrying the destiny that God has prepared. And sometimes the weariness you feel is not physical, it's spiritual. You're not just tired in your body, you're tired in your faith. You've been believing for so long that hope itself feels heavy. But God says, rest in me. Rest is not found in escape. Rest is found in trust. When you learn to rest in the arms of God, your spirit begins to breathe again. You stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You stop chasing what was meant to come to you by divine timing. You learn to walk with quiet confidence, knowing that what God has written for you cannot be erased by any human hand. It takes deep faith to keep praying when nothing changes. It takes real strength to remain peaceful when the waiting stretches longer than you imagined. But hear this truth: God never wastes your waiting. In your waiting, He is maturing your vision. In your waiting, He is teaching you that peace doesn't come when everything works out. Peace comes when you finally surrender everything into His hands. You don't need to know when. It's enough to know who. You don't need to understand how. It's enough to trust that God already does. God has seen the end from the beginning. What confuses you today is already clear in His sight. What looks delayed in your timeline is perfectly on schedule in His. You may feel like you are walking through fog, unable to see even the next step, but God is not asking you to see. He's asking you to believe. Because when you trust Him in the fog, He will lead you into clarity. When you trust Him in uncertainty, He will guide you into peace that surpasses understanding. Many lose faith because they expect God to move according to their calendar. But God's timing doesn't operate on human clocks. You cannot rush what He is building. You cannot demand what He is still preparing. God takes His time because what He creates lasts forever. He doesn't give you fragile blessings that fade. He gives you divine foundations that stand. Every delay is shaping your capacity to handle the blessing when it arrives. And here, this waiting on God is not a passive act. It's the highest demonstration of faith. Anyone can run ahead. Anyone can try to fix things on their own. But it takes divine discipline to stay still when everything in you wants to move. Waiting is not weakness, it's worship. It's saying, God, I trust you enough to stop striving. The world glorifies speed, but God honors patience. The world says, do more, but God whispers, be still. Because in stillness, you begin to hear His voice clearer. You see, when you rush, you miss revelation. When you wait, you gain wisdom. The waiting season opens your spiritual eyes to see beyond appearances. It teaches you that blessings received too early can destroy you, but blessings received in divine timing will sustain you. So if God has not yet released what you've prayed for, it means He's still preparing you to handle it with wisdom, humility, and endurance. And yes, sometimes it will hurt. There will be nights when you wonder why God hasn't answered yet. There will be days when your patience feels like punishment. But remember, God is not delaying to frustrate you. He's delaying to fortify you. He's teaching you to depend on His voice instead of outcomes. Because when your faith is built on results, it will crumble when things don't go your way. But when your faith is built on trust, it will remain unshaken through every season. Even now, as you listen, God is working in places you cannot see. He is preparing opportunities behind closed doors, shifting hearts in your favor, aligning divine connections. What feels like stillness on your side is strategy on His side. You may not see movement, but in the spiritual realm, there is activity. Every prayer releases energy. Every act of faith moves mountains, unseen by the natural eye. Do not let the exhaustion of waiting cause you to settle for less than what God promised. The enemy would love to convince you that the delay means denial, that the silence means abandonment, but it is not so. When you stop believing, you stop receiving. When you lose trust, you lose the connection through which God's blessings flow. You must guard your faith the way you guard your breath. Because faith is not just what pleases God. It is what sustains you in the wilderness. You may be walking through dry land now, but remember, deserts precede promised lands. Every chosen soul has walked through a wilderness. It's the place where you learn that God alone is enough. It's the place where you are stripped of dependence on others, where your strength ends and His begins. And when you emerge from that place, you come out different, stronger, wiser, unshakable. Because you no longer trust what you see, you trust the unseen hand that guides you. Sometimes God allows tiredness not to punish you, but to remind you that you are human, and He is God. He lets you reach the end of yourself so that you may discover the beginning of His strength. You will never know the fullness of His power until you admit the emptiness of your own. The moment you surrender control, the moment you whisper, God, I can, but I know you can, that is when divine strength fills your soul. There is a kind of rest that no sleep can give. It is the rest of trust, the stillness that comes when you stop worrying about outcomes and start believing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. When you live in this rest, fear loses its grip. You stop chasing explanations and start walking in peace. You learn that trusting God is not about escaping uncertainty. It's about resting in it, knowing that you are never alone in your waiting. Look at your life. Every disappointment you faced, every delay you've endured, every tear you've cried, they were not wasted. They were tools. God uses pain to polish purpose. He uses confusion to cultivate clarity. He uses silence to sharpen your discernment. Nothing you have gone through is meaningless. Everything has been part of a divine design to shape your spirit for what is ahead. And yes, sometimes God will allow you to lose something you wanted so that He can give you something you needed. He will close a door that you begged Him to open because behind it was something that would have drained you. You thought that delay was cruelty, but it was mercy in disguise. You thought that rejection was punishment, but it was redirection towards something better. God sees what you cannot see. That is why He asks for your trust more than your understanding. When you pray, do not rush to speak. Pause and listen. The power of prayer is not only in your words, but in your awareness of His presence. Prayer is the language of trust. It is the moment when your worries meet divine wisdom. It is where your confusion dissolves into peace. The more you pray, the more you shift from panic to purpose, from fear to faith. Prayer does not always change your situation immediately, but it always changes you. As you wait, keep your spirit anchored. Don't allow your emotions to dictate your faith. Feelings change, but God's plan does not. You may feel forgotten, but you are engraved in divine memory. You may feel delayed, but you are right on time, according to the rhythm of heaven. Your journey is not about speed, it's about surrender. God is not measuring how fast you move. He's measuring how deeply you trust. There will come a day when you will look back and realize that the waiting was not wasted time. It was sacred time. You will thank God for the nights you cried, for the moments you almost gave up, because those were the moments that built your character, forged your faith, and proved His presence. You will understand why the doors stayed closed, why the path seemed long, why the answer came later than expected. You will see that the delay was part of the design, and the design was always perfect. There are moments when life feels like a long night that refuses to end. You look around and see no light, no sign, no shift. Everything seems still, and your heart wonders, where is God in all this? But listen carefully. God does some of His greatest work in the dark. The night is not proof of His absence. It is the backdrop for His revelation. Before every dawn, there is deep silence. Before every miracle, there is hidden preparation. God moves quietly before He moves publicly. The very stillness you fear is the signal that something divine is forming beneath the surface of your life. God often hides His hand to strengthen your heart. He does not always reveal the plan because He wants to grow your faith, not your comfort. Faith that depends on sight is fragile. Faith that trusts in silence is unbreakable. And so, when you cannot see the way forward, do not panic. Worship instead. When you cannot understand the timing, do not complain. Rest instead. Worship and rest are acts of faith that speak louder than any words. They declare, God, even when I don't see what you're doing, I still trust that you're doing something. Every soul that has walked with God has known this season. The prophets, the leaders, the chosen, each one endured moments when their strength failed, but their faith carried them. God does not remove your weakness, He redeems it. He allows you to reach the end of your strength so that you may discover His. He lets your plans collapse so that His purpose can rise. This is not punishment, it is purification. God refines you until your faith depends on nothing and no one but Him. When you say, I'm tired, God says, I know. When you whisper, I can't keep going, God says, I never asked you to go alone. Your journey was never meant to be carried by your strength alone. God walks beside you even when your steps are shaky. You may not feel His presence, but He surrounds you. He is the quiet assurance in your uncertainty, the gentle strength behind your endurance, the unseen power that keeps your heart beating through the storm. The truth is, sometimes God allows tiredness because it makes you honest. Honest. When you are weary, the mask falls off. You stop pretending to be strong. You stop striving to prove your worth. You fall to your knees and say, God, I need you. And that moment of surrender, pure, raw, unguarded, is where transformation begins. God doesn't meet you in your perfection. He meets you in your authenticity. The most powerful prayers are not the polished ones. They are the broken ones, whispered through tears. You may feel forgotten, but God never forgets. You may feel delayed, But God never delays without reason. He knows exactly what He is doing. Sometimes God keeps you waiting because He is protecting you from what you cannot yet handle. Sometimes He delays because He is rearranging things in your favor. Sometimes He holds back because what you think you want is smaller than what He intends to give. You are asking for survival. He is preparing abundance. You are asking for escape. He is preparing elevation. And so, when you pray, understand that God's "not yet" is still an answer. His silence is not neglect, it is strategy. Every unanswered prayer is being shaped into something greater behind the scenes. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and say, if God had answered me then, I would have missed what He was really preparing. Patience is not weakness, it is power. It is the ability to wait without losing faith. Every storm has a purpose. God does not allow chaos without reason. The storm you face today is cleansing your path for tomorrow. The pain that keeps you awake tonight is preparing your heart for a new level of peace. The closed door is not rejection, it is redirection. When God says no, it's because He's leading you toward a better voice. When He removes people, it's because He's making space for destiny. Trust that every divine removal is a form of mercy, even when it hurts. You see, God's wisdom is beyond the limits of your understanding. You see fragments, He sees the whole. You see today, He sees eternity. That is why trust is so essential. You cannot walk with God and demand full explanation. You walk by faith, not by certainty. You walk with peace, not with proof. Faith means standing in the middle of the unknown and saying, I still believe. Faith means holding on to God when every reason tells you to let go. There are blessings that can only come through endurance. Quick victories do not produce lasting strength. When you wait faithfully, you build spiritual muscle. You learn how to be still without being stagnant. You learn how to walk in patience without losing purpose. This is not wasted time. It's divine training. You are being prepared to handle what you prayed for. You are being strengthened to carry what others could not. And yes, there will be moments when you cry, when you doubt, when you question. That's okay. God is not angry with your honesty. He invites your questions because they are the doorway to deeper faith. The act of bringing your pain before Him is itself a form of trust. It says, I don't understand, but I still come to you. Those tears that you think are weakness are actually worship in its purest form. When you feel empty, that's when God can fill you. When you feel lost, that's when He can guide you. When you feel powerless, that's when His strength becomes visible. The emptiness you fear is sacred. It's the space where God writes new beginnings. Don't rush to fill the silence with noise. Let the silence teach you. Let it remind you that your worth is not in your progress, but in your presence with God. So, pray not just for results, but for revelation. Pray not only for blessings, but for wisdom to handle them. Pray not only for open doors, but for discernment to recognize which doors lead to peace and which lead to distraction. Prayer is the posture of surrender, and surrender attracts divine alignment. When your will aligns with God's will, everything begins to fall into place without striving. As you wait, be careful not to curse the process. The same soil that buries a seed also grows it. What feels like the end is often the beginning in disguise. You are not buried, you are being planted. And when the season shifts, when the rain falls, and when the light returns, you will rise stronger and more radiant than ever before. God is not finished with you, He is forming you. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment is shaping your destiny. Trust that nothing in your life is random. The steps may seem confusing, but each one is necessary. Every waiting season carries within it the promise of new strength. And when the time comes, you will realize that it was worth it. That every moment of tiredness, every prayer through tears, every night of uncertainty was preparing you for something you couldn't have imagined. You may be tired, but you are also chosen. You may be weary, but you are still being watched over by God Himself. You may be uncertain, but you are never alone. The one who created the stars also guides your path. One who holds the oceans in balance also holds your heart. The same God who spoke light into darkness is speaking life into your situation right now. So don't let weariness define you. Let it refine you. Don't let delay break you. Let it build you. Don't let the silence discourage you. Let it strengthen you. God is not late. He is preparing a miracle that will arrive at the perfect time. And when it does, you will see why He made you wait, why He asked you to trust, why He told you to keep praying. You will see that the tiredness was temporary, but the transformation was eternal. You will see that what you called waiting was really awakening. You will see that every unanswered prayer was answered in a higher way. You will see that God never left you for a moment. He was with you in every breath, in every tear, in every pause. And when you look back, you will say, "Now I understand." You will thank Him for the waiting. You will thank Him for the silence. You will thank Him for not giving you what you wanted when you wanted it. Because now you will see that He gave you something far greater. His peace, His timing, and His wisdom. So lift your head, even in your weariness. You are not forgotten. You are being held by God's unshakable hand. The season of tiredness will pass, but the strength gained through trust will stay forever. Keep praying. Keep waiting. Keep trusting. God knows you are tired, but He is not done with you yet. Listen to me carefully. There comes a moment in your life when heaven whispers directly to your heart, and that whisper carries the power to change everything. You've been striving, worrying, and waiting. You've been wondering when your breakthrough will come, when the tide will turn, when your prayers will finally touch the heart of God. But today, this is not an ordinary message. This is a divine instruction from above. God says, relax. It's all coming your way. You've been praying like a warrior, fasting with tears, believing through storms that tried to drown you. And yet, the silence of heaven made you restless. But let me tell you something, the silence of God does not mean the absence of God. Sometimes, the greatest movement of heaven happens in stillness. God is working even when you see nothing. God is arranging, aligning, and orchestrating what your human eyes cannot perceive. You are about to step into a season where what you lost will chase you down, where what you prayed for will suddenly appear, and where the blessings that seem delayed will overtake you like a flood. When God says, relax, He's not telling you to stop believing. He's commanding you to stop striving. There's a difference. Faith is not struggle, faith is surrender. The moment you release your anxiety to God, you make room for His power to move. The reason many people don't see the miracles they pray for is because they hold on too tightly to their own plan. They think if they don't control everything, everything will fall apart. But God says, relax. I'm already in control. You're not the one holding the universe together. I am. Do you know what's about to happen in your life? The very things that seemed impossible are about to bow to divine timing. That closed door that once frustrated you is about to open without effort. That opportunity that once slipped away will return in a greater form. The people who overlooked you will soon be the ones forced to recognize what God placed in you. Every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night, none of it has been wasted. God has been collecting them, shaping them, using them to build a story that will glorify His power through your life. The reason God says relax, because you have already reached the point where your human strength can do no more. You've done your part. Now let God do His. You've prayed, you've worked, you've believed, and now the divine cycle of fulfillment begins. Don't confuse divine delay with divine denial. The waiting season was not punishment, it was preparation. You are being prepared to handle what you once thought you were ready for, but couldn't yet carry. There are things that God wanted to give you earlier, but your spirit wasn't ready to receive them. If He gave them too soon, they would have crushed you. So He allowed the waiting to strengthen your faith. He allowed rejection to teach you self-worth. He allowed silence to increase your dependence on Him. You thought you were losing time, but God was investing wisdom into your soul. He was refining your character, deepening your roots, and teaching you that real peace is not found in having everything, but in trusting the one who gives everything. So when God says relax, it's not a gentle suggestion. It's a command for your destiny. It means stop worrying about who left you. Stop worrying about what didn't work out. Stop worrying about when it will happen. God is not late. Heaven has no panic, no emergency, no confusion. Everything you are praying for is already written, already prepared, already moving toward you. The things that belong to you are on their way. The people who are meant for you are being drawn toward your light. The opportunities that align with your calling are already in motion. You see, when God says, it's all coming your way, He means that the alignment of heaven is now working in your favor. Things are shifting behind the scenes. People are speaking your name in rooms you've never entered. Doors are opening in places you've never been. Situations that look dead are being resurrected. What seemed impossible last year will become normal for you this year. Because when God steps into your situation, He doesn't just change your life. He multiplies it. Some of you have been so worried about your future that you've forgotten to live in the present. You keep asking, when? And God is saying, when you rest, I will move. You're trying to push a door that only opens from the other side. God is saying, be still. I am the one opening it. Your anxiety does not move God. Your faith does. Your overthinking does not speed up His plan. Your surrender does. The moment you release your worries and say, God, I trust you, heaven begins to move faster than your fears ever could. Do not let the waiting make you doubt your worth. God delays nothing that is ready. If it hasn't come yet, it's not because He forgot you. It's because He's perfecting what He's about to give you. You may feel like life has paused, but God is in the process of setting the stage for your next chapter. He's preparing the right people, the right timing, the right opportunities. Everything you prayed for is being arranged with precision, so that when it comes, it will fit into your life without struggle. When God says, relax, He's telling you to stop carrying what He already promised to carry. You've been trying to fix what's not yours to fix. You've been trying to control outcomes that are beyond your hands. That's why you're tired, because you're carrying a weight that belongs to God. Let it go. Trust that the same God who gave you the vision will bring the provision. The same God who started the journey will complete it. The same God who opened one door will open the next. Every time you panic, remind yourself, God cannot fail. You are not at the mercy of luck or people or circumstances. You are under divine order. Nothing happens randomly when God is leading your life. Every delay is strategy. Every setback is setup. Every loss is redirection. Every rejection is protection. Stop trying to rush what God is designing with love. The timing of heaven is always right, even when it feels late on earth. Some of you have been losing sleep over bills, over relationships, over dreams that seem distant. But God says, relax. I already have a plan. If only you knew how close your breakthrough is, you wouldn't be worried. You'd be rejoicing. The problem is not that God is silent. The problem is that your worry is louder than His whisper. God is speaking peace, but you are tuned to fear. Shift your frequency. Tune your heart to faith. Start saying, it's coming. I may not see it yet, but it's on the way. When you align your words with God's promises, you activate the supernatural. Speak what God has declared. Speak abundance when you see lack. Speak peace when you feel chaos. Speak victory when you face battle. The more you speak in alignment with divine truth, the faster your reality begins to shift. Your words are not powerless. Every declaration of faith becomes a seed in the soil of time, and soon those seeds will bloom into manifestations that will leave you in all of God's precision. God is not asking you to understand everything. He's asking you to trust Him through everything. The blessing is not in the knowing, it's in the believing. You don't need to figure out how it's coming. You just need to believe that it's coming. Because when God says, it's all coming your way, He means blessings you didn't work for, favor you didn't earn, and opportunities that you couldn't create. Things are about to align so perfectly that people will ask how you did it, and you will simply say, God. Even the battles you fought were not to destroy you. They were to prepare you for what's coming. You cannot carry abundance with a weak spirit. You cannot walk into destiny with a fearful heart. That's why God allowed the pressure. He was building spiritual strength inside you. He was proving to you that you can survive storms that would break others. Now that you have learned endurance, you are ready for overflow. Relax. Not because everything is perfect, but because God is perfect. Relax. Not because the path is easy, but because you know who walks with you. Relax. Because your destiny is not in the hands of people, it's in the hands of God. Every time you let fear go, you make room for faith to grow. Every time you release control, you invite miracles to flow. And when the blessings begin to come, they won't come in small portions. They will come suddenly, overwhelmingly, abundantly. You will not have to chase them. They will chase you. You will not have to beg for them. They will find you. God has already appointed the right time, and that time is closer than you think. When God says relax, it means you are stepping out of the struggle and into divine flow. It means you have entered the realm where faith replaces fear and surrender replaces striving. God never designed you to live in panic. Worry was never meant to be your portion. Anxiety was never supposed to be your companion. God wants you to live with peace in your heart, even when there is chaos around you. He wants you to walk through storms with calm assurance that He is still in control. The same power that created the heavens is working in your situation. And if you truly believe that, you can rest without fear. You see, many people pray, but few truly rest. They pray and then worry again. They believe for a moment and then start doubting the next. But real faith is not about constantly checking whether God is moving. It's about knowing that He is, even when everything looks still. God moves quietly, powerfully, and perfectly. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean there is no progress. When a seed is planted, nothing seems to be happening on the surface, but under the soil, life is forming, roots are spreading, and soon it breaks forth in strength. That is what God is doing in your life right now. Beneath the silence, there is movement. Beneath the waiting, there is divine growth. Relax, because what belongs to you cannot miss you. What is ordained by God cannot be stolen, delayed forever, or replaced. People may try to take credit. Circumstances may seem to shift against you. But when God has decided to bless you, no one can stand in His way. What He decrees cannot be reversed. That is why you don't need to compete, compare, or chase. You only need to align yourself with God's rhythm and let His will unfold naturally. When you trust in His timing, everything begins to work together in perfect harmony. There is a peace that comes when you realize that nothing surprises God. You didn't take a wrong turn. It was part of the plan. You didn't miss your opportunity. It's being reserved for the appointed time. Every closed door was protection. Every no was redirection. Every delay was preservation. God knew that if certain things came too early, they would have destroyed your focus. So, instead of forcing what wasn't ready, He delayed it so it could mature. And so you could mature with it. Sometimes, the greatest sign that you're close to your blessing is when everything around you begins to feel like pressure. It's like the last stage before birth. The contractions are painful, but they're also proof that something is about to be delivered. When life starts pressing you on all sides, when you feel like you can't hold on anymore, that's not the end. It's the sign that the new beginning is near. God often allows the final test right before the manifestation. So don't let the pressure break you. Let it prepare you. Relax, because God never forgets the faith of those who trust Him in silence. He remembers the nights you cried, but still prayed. He remembers the mornings you woke up weary, but kept believing. He remembers when everyone else gave up on you, but you refused to give up on Him. Those silent seasons were not wasted. They became proof of your loyalty, and God rewards loyalty. He will not allow you to end this season the same way you entered it. He is about to turn what looked like delay into divine acceleration. What would have taken years will happen in moments because you trusted His process. God is teaching you that His pace is perfection. What feels slow to you is actually divine precision. Every second of waiting is shaping you into the person who can handle what's coming. Sometimes the blessing is not delayed. The person meant to carry it is still being refined. And when the refining is complete, the blessing comes with no sorrow attached. That is why God says, relax. You don't need to rush destiny. What's yours is secure. Let me tell you something powerful. When you live in peace, you attract what you were once chasing. Peace has magnetic power. When your spirit is calm and aligned with God, opportunities begin to locate you. Doors open naturally. People are drawn to your energy without you trying to impress them. That's because divine favor flows through a rested heart. When you're anxious, you block blessings. But when you're peaceful, you invite them. God operates best in stillness, not in panic. This is why it's so important to keep your heart quiet before God. Stop letting fear make your decisions. Stop letting worry interpret your reality. You are not what your circumstances say you are. You are what God has declared you to be. Even if life seems unfair right now, remind yourself that God has the final word. People can speak against you. Situations can rise against you. But nothing can override what God has written about your life. Every time you feel pressure building, every time fear whispers that it's too late, remind yourself of this truth. You are on divine schedule. God doesn't operate according to human calendars. He doesn't panic because of deadlines. What looks late to you is perfectly on time for Him. God doesn't need time. He uses time. And when the right moment arrives, things that were stagnant for years can shift in a single day. Relax, because the same God who carried you through the wilderness will carry you into abundance. The same power that sustained you when you had nothing will multiply what you have now. God is not finished with you. The delays, the disappointments, the rejections, all of them were tools to train your spirit. You are stronger than before, wiser than before, deeper than before. And when you finally receive what's coming, you'll realize that every struggle was necessary. You see, sometimes God hides blessings in hardship. What looks like loss is often an invitation to greater gain. When God removes something, it's not subtraction, it's preparation for multiplication. Stop mourning what He has taken. It was never meant to stay. If it could be taken, it wasn't your foundation. God removes what's unstable so that He can replace it with what's unshakable. Relax, because what is ahead of you is far greater than what is behind you. The pain you endured was not punishment, it was positioning. The waiting you experienced was not delay, it was design. God has been preparing a table for you, not just to feed you, but to honor you. You will eat in peace where you once fought in tears. You will rest where you once wrestled. You will smile where you once wept. And hear this, when God starts to release what belongs to you, you won't have to force it. It will come naturally, easily, gracefully. The right people will show up without manipulation. The right opportunities will appear without chasing. You won't have to beg, prove, or explain, because what's ordained doesn't require validation. When something is meant for you, even time cannot deny it. So stop trying to figure everything out. Faith is not about understanding, it's about trusting. You may not know how, but you know who. And that is enough. God doesn't need your strategy, He needs your surrender. When you finally let go of control, you step into His rhythm of grace. You stop surviving and start flowing. You stop pushing and start allowing. That's when life becomes lighter, because you're no longer carrying what was never yours to carry. The truth is, many people are tired not because they've worked too hard, but because they've worried too much. Worry drains you more than effort ever will. Anxiety steals more energy than any battle. But when you truly trust God, peace becomes your power. You walk differently. You think differently. You speak differently. You become unshakable because your peace is rooted in something eternal, not temporary. When storms rise, you no longer panic. You remember who controls the wind. When doors close, you don't despair. You trust that new ones are being built. When people leave, you don't chase. You know that divine alignment is happening. This is what it means to relax in God. It's not laziness, it's spiritual maturity. It's the posture of a heart that knows, if God said it, it will happen. Even when the enemy tries to whisper that it's over, remind yourself that God never ends a story in defeat. Every challenge carries a hidden blessing. Every fall carries a seed of greater rise. You might not see it yet, but heaven is rearranging things in your favor. The blessing might be silent now, but it is not absent. God is faithful to complete what He began. There comes a sacred point in your journey when you must realize that rest is not weakness, it is wisdom. God does not call you to exhaustion, He calls you to alignment. You cannot receive divine guidance if your heart is full of noise. You cannot hear the voice of direction if your mind is full of worry. God speaks clearest to the heart that is still. That is why when He says, relax, it is not a suggestion, it is an invitation into intimacy. It is His way of saying, be still and know that I am God. In the quietness of trust, the greatest miracles are conceived. When you relax in faith, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most powerful thing a believer can do. You are declaring that your confidence is not in circumstances, but in God Himself. You are saying, even if I see no signs, I will still trust. Even if everything looks broken, I will still believe. And that kind of faith shakes the heavens. It tells God that you are ready to live not by sight, but by the unshakable truth that He is faithful to every promise He has ever made. There is a reason why peace is the atmosphere of miracles. When you are anxious, you close your spirit to divine flow. When you are calm, you open the door for supernatural movement. Anxiety speaks the language of fear. Peace speaks the language of trust. And God responds to trust. You may think nothing is happening, but peace is the proof that something is shifting. The moment you stop worrying, you make space for divine orchestration. God cannot fill hands that are clenched in control. He fills the hands that are open in surrender. The reason you have not seen the fullness of your breakthrough yet is not because God has forgotten you. It's because He is perfecting your capacity to hold it. Blessings require structure. Favor requires readiness. If God gave you everything you prayed for right now, could you handle it? Could you sustain it? Could you remain humble under it? God withholds nothing good, but He waits until your foundation is strong enough to carry the weight of what He is about to release. So relax, not because you are giving up, but because you understand that divine timing is the highest form of wisdom. Think of how nature operates under divine order. The tree never worries about its growth. The river never doubts its course. Everything in creation flows effortlessly within the rhythm God established. Yet we, who are given reason and will, often resist that rhythm with our impatience. We want instant results in a world designed for process, but the same God who brings the sunrise at its appointed hour will bring your breakthrough at yours. No delay in His kingdom is ever wasted. Every waiting season has purpose. Every silent phase has instruction. And every setback contains a hidden lesson. Relax, because God is never in a hurry, yet He is never late. He moves in precision, not haste. He allows certain seasons of stillness to expose what cannot go with you into your next level. He removes relationships that drain your energy, opportunities that distract your focus, and habits that weaken your spirit. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and thank God for every unanswered prayer, every delay, every detour. Because it was all guiding you toward the path that was meant for you from the beginning. There is divine wisdom in learning to let go. Some of you are holding on to people, plans, and places that God has already released you from. You are fighting to resurrect what God buried, and that is why your spirit is tired. You cannot move forward while holding on to what is behind you. God cannot fill your hands with new blessings while they are gripping old burdens. The moment you release what no longer serves your growth, new doors will open. Divine replacement always follows divine release. Do not confuse comfort with peace. Some things feel familiar, but are no longer fruitful. God will sometimes shake your comfort zone, not to punish you, but to position you. The discomfort you feel is often the signal that elevation is near. You prayed for growth, and God is answering through stretching. You prayed for increase, and God is answering through separation. You prayed for strength, and God is answering through challenge. Stop resisting the process. It's working for you, not against you. When God says, It's all coming your way. He's not only talking about material blessings. He's talking about restoration of peace, renewal of purpose, revival of confidence. He's talking about the inner transformation that prepares you to carry outer success with grace. Because what good is abundance if your heart is anxious? What good is success if your spirit is restless? The true blessing of God is peace that surpasses circumstances. A peace that says, even if nothing changes, I am still whole, because I know who holds my life. Relax, because God's plan is never fragile. What He has written for your life cannot be erased by mistakes, failures, or human interference. You might think you've gone too far or fallen too hard, but God is never limited by your weakness. He uses even your detours as directions. He turns even your losses into lessons. When you relax, you give God permission to turn your story into something sacred. The cracks in your life become the channels for His light to shine through. There is a power that flows from complete surrender. It's the kind of peace that says, I may not know what's next, but I trust the one who does. It's not the peace that comes from everything going right. It's the peace that remains when everything goes wrong. That peace is not fragile. It's unbreakable because it's built on the foundation of trust in God's character. Once you understand who God is, you stop fearing what might happen, because you realize that even what seems against you will eventually work for you. God never wastes pain. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every silent night, it all becomes part of a greater story. You think you're waiting on God, but often God is waiting on you to stop worrying, to stop doubting, to stop trying to control what only He can change. The moment you truly relax, the moment you fully let go, you'll feel the shift. Doors will open, peace will rise, what was stuck will move, what was broken will begin to heal. Do not mistake stillness for inactivity. God is never idle. Even when you are resting, He is working. When you sleep, He is arranging. When you're quiet, He's speaking to others on your behalf. When you release control, He takes over with precision. The unseen hand of God is always writing new chapters. You don't need to force what He is already forming. Relax and let His timing reveal its beauty. And know this, when the blessing finally comes, it will not come with confusion. The peace of God will accompany it. You won't have to chase or compete. What is meant for you will fit effortlessly. The right people will enter your life without drama. The right doors will open without resistance. The right opportunities will find you without striving. That is the signature of divine alignment. Ease, flow, and peace. Relax, because the universe is not against you. It's obeying divine command. Everything that is meant for your purpose is being drawn towards you. Every delay has an appointed day of manifestation. Every unseen effort will soon bear visible fruit. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. God never skips preparation, because what is built fast falls fast. But what is built in patience stands forever. The waiting season is sacred. It's where faith matures. It's where trust deepens. It's where you learn that God is not just the giver of blessings. He is the blessing Himself. When you finally understand that, you stop chasing outcomes and start cherishing presence. You stop needing everything to happen now, and instead, you rest in the assurance that whatever God chooses to do, whenever He chooses to do it, it will be perfect. You may be surrounded by uncertainty, but your foundation is unshakable. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you know who holds tomorrow. So rest, relax. The same God who painted the skies, who controls the tides, who commands the stars, is managing the details of your life with precision. Nothing is missing. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wasted. The energy you have been spending on worry, redirect it into worship. The time you've been using to complain, use it to thank. Gratitude accelerates divine movement. When you thank God in advance, you declare trust in His promise before you see its fulfillment. That kind of faith moves mountains. Gratitude turns waiting into worship and delay into destiny. When you can say, "Thank you, God," even before it comes, that's when the blessings start chasing you down. So, relax, not because everything is easy, but because everything is divine. Relax, not because you understand, but because you trust. Relax, not because life is predictable, but because God is dependable. You don't have to know how it will happen. You just need to know that it will. You don't have to see the path. You just have to walk in faith. Everything that is meant for you is coming peacefully, powerfully, and perfectly, because God Himself has decreed it. So now, take a deep breath and let peace settle in your heart. Stop fighting battles that belong to God. Stop trying to carry what His hands already hold. You have done enough, prayed enough, believed enough. Now it's time to rest in quiet confidence. God has not forgotten you, and He has not changed His mind about you. Everything you have been waiting for, working toward, and crying over is already making its way to you. The doors are about to open, the answers are about to unfold, and the blessings are about to overflow. Relax, not because life is simple, but because God is sovereign. Relax, not because you know every step, but because you trust the one who orders them. When you stop striving, you make space for miracles. When you choose peace, you become unstoppable. So, release every worry, stand in faith, and walk in calm assurance, because God says, relax, it's all coming your way.